Let's follow the journey of a supermarket tomato. It all begins on a large farm, often in a distant, warm climate country. The seeds are planted, the plants grow, battling unpredictable weather and pests. But when harvest time arrives, the tomatoes aren't allowed to fully ripen. Why? Because they have a long trip ahead. Still green and firm, they're picked early and packed into crates before heading to a shipping port. There, they wait to be loaded onto cargo ships, beginning a long ocean journey that lasts multiple weeks to few months. To slow down ripening, they're stored in refrigerated containers, which affects both taste and texture. Once they reach land, the tomatoes are unloaded onto trucks and transported across highways to distribution centers. There, they're sorted, repacked, and sent to supermarkets where they finally reach store shelves. A customer walks in, picks one up, and takes it home or not. But after all this, early harvesting, long transport, artificial ripening, how fresh is that tomato really in the end? And is there a better way? That's what we'll explore next. Alright, so we just traced the long journey of a supermarket tomato, but now let's talk about something we don't always see, the waste and environmental cost that comes with it. Most of us don't think about it when grabbing a tomato at the store, but getting it there is far from efficient. At the farming stage, water is heavily overused. Irrigation systems lose huge amounts to evaporation and runoff, meaning much of the water never reaches the plants and does not stay in the roots where it is actually needed. Then there's packaging waste. Supermarket tomatoes often come in plastic trays, thin film, or multi-layered packaging, most of which isn't recyclable and ends up in landfills or oceans. Even biodegradable materials take years to break down. And let's not forget energy waste. Warehouses and supermarkets rely on constant refrigeration, artificial lighting, and processing equipment, consuming huge amounts of electricity to keep tomatoes looking fresh, and this refrigeration process already started during the transport to the supermarket. Remember those trucks from earlier? Imagine those freezing tomatoes waiting for hours in the traffic jam. After all this effort, how many tomatoes actually get eaten? Supermarkets reject tons for being too big, too small, or slightly imperfect. Some spoil during handling, and many get thrown away at home. All that wasted food means wasted water, energy, labor, and materials. And this happens every single day. Now let's talk about something that affects us directly. The price we pay. Tomato prices fluctuate constantly. Sometimes they seem reasonable, other times they spike unexpectedly. But what really drives these changes? Supermarkets present pricing as a response to supply and demand. But behind the scenes, based on profit margins, supplier negotiations, and consumer psychology. One of the biggest factors is inflation, but it's not the only one. During the COVID-19 pandemic, vegetable prices in the EU rose by 20%, and tomato products in Germany saw a 9 and 10% increase. Reduced production and supply chain disruptions kept prices high long after the crisis ended. And let's not forget, these are just standard supermarket tomatoes. Organic options? Significantly more expensive. Organic farming costs more due to certification, lower yields, and supply chain inefficiencies. But supermarkets also market them as a luxury, making them less accessible. At the same time, farmers earn only a fraction of the final price. They sell at wholesale rates, while supermarkets increase prices based on transport, operational costs, and profit targets. The result? Farmers struggle while consumers pay more. And then there's the question of low prices. If production, transport, and storage all cost money, how can tomatoes sometimes be dirt cheap? The answer often lies in cost cutting along the supply chain, pushing down farm wages, lowering quality standards, or exploiting cheap labor. But does it really have to be this way? Talk about organic food and what it really means. We see the label, we hear the promises, but what defines something as truly organic? And beyond that, is organic always as natural and ethical as we assume? For many, organic means clean, natural, and free from harmful chemicals. No pesticides, no synthetic fertilizers, no GMOs. But the truth is, organic farming isn't always as simple as it sounds. To be certified organic, farmers must follow strict guidelines, and the process is expensive. That's part of why organic produce costs more. But avoiding synthetic chemicals doesn't mean crops grow without any intervention. Organic farmers still use natural pesticides and methods to control pests and diseases, and even those can impact the environment. There's also the issue of fair labor. Organic doesn't automatically mean ethical. Workers on organic farms still face low wages and poor working conditions unless the farm is fair trade certified, which is an entirely separate system. Fair trade focuses on better wages, safe working conditions, and sustainable farming practices, ensuring that the people growing our food are treated fairly. But not all organic farms are fair trade, and not all fair trade farms are organic. And then there's the constant battle with insects, snails, and larger animals. Without chemical pesticides, crops are vulnerable. Insects can destroy fields, snails feed on leaves, birds pick at the fruit, and larger animals like rabbits or deer eat entire plants. Farmers use natural barriers and repellents, but this adds more labor, more losses, and higher costs. But here's the real question. Why should real natural food cost more than food sprayed with chemicals and modified for mass production? Why is it considered a premium choice instead of the standard? What if you could grow food, being fair trade and organic at the same time without having to raise the prices? Plant a seed, let nature do the rest. But in reality, it is a constant battle against unpredictable conditions. Farming outside means playing by nature's rules. Crops need specific conditions for temperature, humidity, and soil quality, but nature is unpredictable. A drought can dry out fields, ruining months of effort. A frost can wipe out delicate plants overnight. Too much rain, crops rot before they're even ready to harvest. A sudden heat wave weakens plants, reducing their yield and making them vulnerable to pests. Farmers try to adapt, but there's not much they can control. Every year, outdoor farming gets even riskier. And now, climate change makes things worse. Extreme droughts, floods, and storms that used to be rare are becoming more frequent and intense. Some regions are getting too hot for farming, while others experience shifting growing seasons, meaning outdoor farming is tied to seasonal cycles. Some crops grow only at specific times, yet supermarkets need them year-round. Current solution? Shipping food from wherever it's growing, often thousands of kilometers away. This makes us dependent on global supply chains, which can break down due to crises and politics any moment. So we have to really ask ourselves, does it make sense to keep relying on a food system so vulnerable to nature's unpredictability and unstable to crisis events? Isn't there a way to grow food in conditions that we ourselves can control? Now, the biggest question remains, can we trust that this food system will still work in the future? Every year we see droughts, floods, supply chain breakdowns, rising prices. Food once affordable becomes expensive. We trust that supermarkets will always have what we need, but that trust depends on a long, fragile chain, one built on depleting resources and long-distance transport. What happens when the system can't keep up? When it costs too much to grow food? When imports slow down? When we have bad seasons? The truth is, we can't predict what will happen to the food system, but we can decide what happens in our own homes. The most reliable way to ensure food security? It's taking control ourselves by growing right where we live. The ultimate step towards stability, safety, and sustainability. Every plant you grow is yours, and you don't have to depend on someone else. It's food you trust because you grew it yourself. The future of outdoor growing is uncertain. But one thing isn't. Those who grow their own food indoors will always have food. This video isn't just about food. It's about control, security, and the future. And the best part? You don't need a farm, a garden, or even a balcony to take control of your food. With the right indoor grow system, you can grow any plant you want wherever you live. Clean, reliable, and always within reach. So start your indoor growing journey with us. On our channel, you'll find videos that guide you step by step, whether you're a complete beginner or looking to expand your knowledge. We show you everything you need to know. And furthermore, 50% of this channel's earnings are dedicated to social projects. Let's build something more stable, more reliable, and truly ours. Join us, start growing, and take back control. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.
Don't forget to subscribe and have a beautiful day. Thank you for watching Plantified.